Hi, I'm Jade, and welcome to the Cexless Podcast. Today, we are sitting down with Jonathan Caras of Levana Protocol and soon to be Rujira Perps. He's also a family man, a vinyl collector, and one of the nicest guys I've had the pleasure to speak with. Jonathan, thank you so much for making the time to come chat with me today.
Well, thank you. We had a lovely conversation earlier, and I'm excited for this podcast and the opportunity to tell our story of what we're doing at Levana and what's the idea behind Rujira and how RUJI Perps will be different.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into that. And that's right. We had a conversation yesterday and it flowed so nicely. I thought, wow, we have to do an interview. I want to get into Rujira and Levana, but before we do, if you could share with us how you first went down the crypto rabbit hole and what that origin story is for you.
I didn't tell you this yesterday, but it's worth it. So I was an avid Redditor, and I came across Reddit through BitTorrent and through subreddits in around 2011. I had actually a classmate. I was in the Jerusalem College of Technology, and a classmate of mine was mining, and so he needed some technical support, and we were both studying engineering, and I thought that Bitcoin was a fascinating coordination mechanism. I didn't really see much economic viability to it. I was like, how big can this thing possibly get? If it gets like more than, $100, I think it'll just get hacked or shut down or whatever. Everybody had a reason why they didn't buy Bitcoin when they first heard about it. And I really thought, I was part of some private torrent, groups, primarily like around, console gaming and things of that nature. And there was always problems with seeding ratios. And so I thought that something like Bitcoin could be really great as a means of account as to, who had, for you to have fungibility with the value of how much that you were seeding into the network. But it kind of really dropped away with, just work and life and everything. And then I found out about it again in 2016. I remember like the suicide hotlines on Reddit after the Mt. Gox crash. But 2016, I was looking for ways to buy gold, which was really difficult because I wanted something that couldn't be inflated away. I had an exit from a startup, and I wanted to be able to store long-term value without being subject to inflation. And after kind of getting bit by the gold bug and then being unsuccessful at being able to actually buy golds in any serious quantity, not just paper gold on a website, somebody suggested, oh, you really should look into Bitcoin. And I read the white paper and I just kind of fell in love with it. And I've really just been, every day just on Twitter and Reddit and podcasts, kind of learning as much as I can and working professionally in the space since 2017.
So you knew about Bitcoin back in 2011.
That was unfortunately when I was first introduced to it, but didn't take it seriously. I was a big skeptic.
But you're taking it seriously now, and you have since started working with Levana. And I'm curious how Levana Protocol came to be.
So I was leading business development at Starkware at the time, which is a zero knowledge proof protocol, scaling and privacy. And I was introduced to the Delphi digital team that does research, and they have a venture arm, and they were opening up a labs, like an in-house incubator. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for somebody with, technical experience and with product experience and, to be part of their first cohort for a derivatives product for building on Terra. And so I left Starkware to join what then became Levana. And we built a number of different products in the GameFi space and in the DeFi space on Terra until Terra crashed. And then we expanded out to general cosmos. We launched Levana, which is a well-funded perps. It's like a GMX style perps. We've done about $4 billion of trading volume, had about 30,000 users, generated a little over, I think, $4.2 million in fees. And we've got about 45 different markets on 3 different chains, Neutron, Injective, and Osmosis. And now I think what is, we're most excited about is our recent partnership with Kajira and Thorchain to build out Rujira, which is a DeFi focused app layer for Thorchain.
Yes, it's very exciting. There has been talk about Thorchain perps for a long time now, but can you tell us how Rujira and this new app layer came to be and what that means for Levana?
So JP about 4 months ago tweeted out that he was interested in adding Cosmosm and checking the boxes, so to speak, for the basics or foundational DeFi elements. So that's lending, borrowing, order book, spot, perps, prediction markets, NFTs, a few other basics. And so I reached out and we had a lot of mutual connections. And so we ended up getting to meet in person in South Korea and Singapore. And it just really, we shared a lot of the same vision. After he started working with the Kajira team, everything kind of just fell into place. And we're super excited to really build out something that nobody else has really done before, where you could actually take your Bitcoin and then put it to work to either be a liquidity provider for a whole suite of DeFi applications, including providing liquidity for perps traders, or being able to use it for collateral to go 50x long or short, or various different basis trading strategies or cash and carry strategies. So really, this is the first time, or will be the first time, that there's a really comprehensive Bitcoin focused DeFi ecosystem that just seamlessly integrates into any wallet and has interoperability to any crypto ecosystem that you really would want to interact with.
Wow. And we're expecting it to bring huge volume to Thorchain as well.
Yes. In the traditional market, derivatives has about 40x the volume spot. And so we're very excited to take the existing version of Levana to build it out as RUJI perps. And then also to expand to include order book perps, to include automated vaults. We're building out right now the copy trading strategy. So even if you're not a great trader, there might be a trader that you follow on social media, and you can just deposit into a vault, and then share the P&L from their trading strategies. And so what's really exciting, and I think what's differentiated within the Rujira ecosystem, is that everything, the value capture is very simple. There's many different apps, and they all bring value to RUJI stakers and RUNE stakers.
Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Sure. So the RUNE is the base layer, and that's what secures the liquidity for all of the assets that are bridged into the system, or bonded into the ecosystem, which is secured through proof of stake. People staking RUNE and providing RUNE, which is also used as part of the trading mechanism for the fungibility between the different assets on Thorchain. And then the Rujira app layer on top then is has a coordination mechanism, which is the token called RUJI, which then receives half of all of the fees that the protocols generate on the app layer. So half are split between the app layer coordination token, which is RUJI, and the other half goes to the security mechanism, which is the staked RUNE as well.
I'm wondering, what has it been like working with these new teams? You're working with the Kujira team, you're working with JP, you guys have found opportunity in chaos. What has that been like for you?
Well, JP is a typhoon, like a human typhoon, like a hurricane. He's just an unstoppable force that gets people up and moving and motivated, and just really, as he likes to put it, creates chaos wherever he goes. And so I say that with the utmost amount of respect and love. Like, I've been following him for a while now, since really Thorchain launched, or I guess maybe 2020, so slightly after the launch, I think. And it's amazing to see somebody that has so many skills and talent and so much energy to really move things. I'd say that I'm probably my biggest inspiration just in terms of an entrepreneur is definitely Musk, Elon Musk, just that it's somebody that can't stop innovating. and I see a lot of similarities between the two. JP at this point doesn't need to do anything. He's, he could be happy just, living his life with his family and, flying a helicopter and just doing all of he's got so many talents and interests and everything, but yet he's compelled to keep coming back to create things like Rujira and new wallets and new types of meme coins and new types of economic methodologies and new types of security mechanisms. And it's just I see that from spending time with him, that he constantly has new ideas come in, and it's almost painful to not express those through constant innovation. And in terms of the Kujira team, I mean, they're just best in class engineers and community managers, and they just really understand the space so well. They're able to just build and constantly innovate. And so I've known them since the Terra days. We were both survivors of the Terra crash. So it's been just amazing to have an opportunity to just work with them from an engineering perspective as well.
So I know the app layer is set to launch pretty soon in November. Is that right?
Well, StageNet is going to go live in November. So we've actually, at Levana, we've completed the reskinning of Levana perps to RUJI perps. And we're super excited to be able to deploy it to StageNet. We'll do all of the wallet integrations and everything at that point. And then it's just rushing to get the bugs out and get it to mainnet. So I would suspect mainnet is, let's say, mid Q1 of next year, but it's coming very quickly.
And Levana to launch by the end of Q1. Is that right?
Yeah, so RUJI perps, I think, will be by the end of Q1. Levana will continue with the 3 deployments and any other future deployments that we currently have. And they will use the coordination mechanism of the LVN token, which is our existing token. And the way that we're kind of merging the two communities is that if you are an LVN holder, you'll be able to decide whether or not you want to merge your tokens into the RUJI ecosystem. And there's 5% of the RUJI supply will be going to the existing LVN holders that participate in the merge, or you can continue to just stake and receive fees off of the existing 3 deployments on, as I said before, Neutron, Injective, and Osmosis.
So zooming out a little bit, I know that right now everything is going towards Rujira perps. What would you say is your long-term vision for Levana, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, Levana is an acronym for leverage any asset. And so ultimately our vision is to build a product that is used massively by a large group of people to be able to take any asset that you can imagine, whether it's on-chain or off-chain. It could be the rain in Paris, and then create a leverage market for that. And I think that there's so many applications that haven't been explored, whether it's through being able to hedge real world price movements with commodities or with Forex or with other types of markets, whether it's being able to create all kinds of exotic markets, or even just extensions of meme factories. Like imagine a pumped up fund where when you launch, you have the ability to short, or you have the ability to trade with leverage. That creates a whole new type of trading strategy, or it's a new memetics, token economics around memes. I envision things like being able to leverage indexes of NFTs and being able to provide integrations with GameFi. But I think a lot of that is going to take years to build out, and it's very exciting to be able to see in the immediate future everything that we have going for the existing deployments of Levana and the upcoming deployment of RUJI perps.
Yeah, absolutely. That does sound exciting. I'm wondering, you have had a journey of amazing highs and lows. I'm looking at you, Terra. What lessons have you learned, and how do you get through those tough times?
Well, I think there's a few lessons. I lost basically everything with the Terra collapse. I was very, very closely involved. I worked with Do Kwon I was part of the advisory board for LFG, the Luna Foundation Guard. I lived, breathed, and dreamt Terra and Luna. And so it was very crushing. It was, hard to, it's very interesting because builders almost move like these slow moving aircraft carriers where it's very hard to turn left and right. When you're kind of just a crypto Twitter, random poster, you're a retail investor, or you're even a VC, the ability to just change a shifting narrative, reallocate capital, change an icon on your Twitter profile gives you a flexibility that you can just always stay on your toes and adjust. But it's much harder to be a builder in the space and to change and also to admit when you're wrong. And so I think the thing that I realize most is that you really have to, it's very hard when things are going well to not invest more than you can afford to lose. It's also very hard to know what you can afford to lose, like what that really means. Mm-hmm. And it's very important to have a life outside of crypto Twitter, to touch grass. And it's important to know when you need therapy. I think that mental health is, especially when you have like crushing blows, is very important. And that's something that's not talked about enough in our space. We work in a space that is so intense and it's 24/7, 365, even more than that. And so it's important to kind of know what values that you bring to the table and then to understand how they will impact you when things are difficult. I'm very thankful for my wife and kids for, to be able to get through the challenging times. And I think Levana has probably made every mistake that you can in the space. I think personally, I've probably made every mistake that you can in the space, but you also have to persevere. You have to recognize that things aren't going to be perfect and you just need to, it's a marathon. I'm sorry, my parrot just woke up and so I know you can hear him in the background. So I will move him into another room. So give me a second.
Well, maybe we can, I was going to ask you about what you enjoy doing in your,
if you want to
introduce them, why not?
Sure. So I play piano. I'm a terrible jazz pianist, but I will someday. But the nice thing is about music is that you have to start out as a terrible ... And then through that process, then you become an excellent ... or at least a mediocre ... So I play piano for a few years now. I like language learning. I speak a handful of languages and I've been learning Chinese for a year. I like to collect things. I have, most recently I've been working on a vinyl collection, as you mentioned. So I've been traveling a lot. So wherever I go, I try and pick up, I would find a secondhand record store and, just collect some of that. I was in Japan earlier this year and I found this amazing, it was 100 yen, which is like, I don't even know, what is that? That must be like 20 or 30 cents a record. So you find like these crazy gems. Maybe it's like $1. I don't remember the exact exchange rate. And then during Corona, I raised miniature parrots. And so now I have like a little army of like 20 or so little miniature parrots.
Yeah, I got to meet them yesterday, but can you tell everyone that you built an actual aviary?
Yeah. So I built an aviary and then I started with just like 3 or 4 birds, and then they do, I guess, what animals do when they've had babies. And I actually, it's funny because we've had so many escapees over the past 4 years. So I actually have inadvertently introduced a new, flock of birds into my community that just like fly around and they kind of pick on the local pigeons. Yeah, so that's probably not good from an ecological perspective, but they are beautiful to look at.
And they bring you joy. Oh, show us one.
Yeah. Sure.
They were so cute yesterday.
So this is Marigold. He's about 6 months old, and this is his favorite snack. So he's gonna play nicely. It's called mullet. I'm not even sure what it is. It's some type of a grain, but he like goes nuts for it. He like when he sees it, he like clings against the cage and is like, oh, I gotta get some of that. And he'll live somewhere between 5 to 10 years. And I'm in the market for a girlfriend for him, but It's actually, I've learned a lot. I've probably raised about, personally, like from egg to parenting, probably about a dozen of them.
Wow.
They're very loyal. So if you raise I mean, they're not domesticated, animals, but if you raise them, they will love you, and they'll actually like be jealous if they see you, with others. So like it drives my wife crazy because they definitely feel threatened, when they're like, hey, that's my mommy. I guess I'm the mommy. Yeah.
Aw, he's so beautiful. Look, he loves you.
Yeah, he really does. And they'll like, I have a big beard, so when they're like young enough, they'll actually just like burrow or nest like in my beard. It's ridiculous.
Like it's an actual nest. Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
that's
Exactly.
amazing.
And so he'll see it's like past his bedtime right now. So he's like, that's why he's like starting to chirp.
Okay. All right.
I'll put him back in his cage.
Okay. Thanks for showing us, Marigold.
And I'm back.
He's back. So we touched on this a little bit, but you have been traveling an insane amount for work and all of these conferences and these meetings. I was wondering, what is that like, and do you have a favorite destination that you've been to so far?
So it's exhausting. It's hard to. I do a lot of the business development, and we've been working on this Thorchain relationship. We've been meeting, trying to understand where the opportunities are in the space, what is a realistic, AI play, and who are the partners, and trying to separate the signal from the noise.
Mhm.
And so much of relationship building can be done effectively in person that it justifies at certain points in a protocol's life cycle for there to be somebody that's just present, and especially kind of coming out of a bear market like we're hopefully coming out of. Hopefully we're seeing the bottom, because it's been brutal for DeFi for the past 2 years, even longer than that. So there was a conscious decision to kind of do the circuits, especially after spending, probably a good year or so with very minimal travel and kind of just heads down focus building. And I was in Japan and South Korea and Singapore and Dubai this year, and I'll be going to Thailand as well. And it's exhausting, but I think that, and especially with the time zones, but the people that we've met has been really incredible. I was just Cosmoverse, which it's really interesting to kind of see the trends as they develop. It's interesting to see who shows up and who doesn't show up, especially if you've been in the space for a number of years. And the most interesting place was definitely Japan, but I think the highest quality, event was probably Singapore at Token 2049. And that just the entire city was taken over. It was my first time in Singapore, but really the entire city was taken over by crypto bros. And it was amazing. There was a few trends that I didn't expect. I felt like there was almost no innovation in GameFi, and there was a lot of apprehension about trying anything new in DeFi. You saw a lot of the same old kind of playbooks, just still fantasizing about the 2021 DeFi summer, and like, oh, we're at the cusp of getting that again. And that's one of the things I think that also really attracts me to Thorchain, is that I think it's one of the few projects where there's a vision of building something new and innovative within the space.
Switching gears a little bit, you told me yesterday that before you worked in crypto, you had some tech jobs and careers, and that you worked with the Kardashians. And I thought that was so interesting. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that story.
Sure. So I had built a video streaming company, and we had done very well. This was from 2012 to 2015. And towards, we had kind of entered into a new product life cycle, which was focused on hardware. We were building a camera attachment for the Apple Watch. And I was kind of at that point burned out. The cycles for hardware are very different than for consumer facing software. I was hit up by some headhunters that were looking for somebody to soup to nuts build out some products for the Kardashian family, and they had a contract to build fashion apps for Kim. And so I just thought it was a prank at first, and then they actually flew out across the Atlantic to meet me, and that's when I thought it was, I knew it was serious. That's a pretty expensive prank, if you're
Yeah.
trying to pull that. And we really hit it off with the vision. I flew out to Bel Air, and I met with Kim and some of her team, and we talked vision. I designed about, I think it was 6 different apps for them, one of which we brought to market, which was called Screenshop. And then after it used AI. It wasn't called AI at the time. It was just called computer vision machine learning. To turn an Instagram feed into a shopping cart through image recognition. And it was acquired by Snapchat in less than 2 years after launch. So the whole experience was amazing, and it was kind of a perfect journey. Like, I was experimenting with crypto at the time. I was making my first Bitcoin and Ethereum purchases, and then after that, I basically went full-time into crypto.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. It's amazing how versatile people are, and they have all these different experiences in their life, and who knows where it's going, but what a fun journey that is.
And a big part of that experience is that you kind of always have to show up. You always miss the shots that you don't take, I think is the quote. I don't know who said that. I just know, I think from Nike
Gretzky, I think.
Oh, is that Wayne Gretzky?
100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, that's great. And the ball never goes in the hole if you don't hit hard enough. Those are 2 that just kind of always stuck out. So you have to be willing to fail and be willing to make mistakes and be willing to have egg on your face. And it's hard in crypto because you're always building in public, and you always have to deal with sentiment, and community sentiment is usually, it can often be misaligned, whereas community will be focused primarily on short-term price movements, and they use that as the judge of success, and many times to be a success. I wouldn't say successful, because that also predominantly is defined by price movements, but to create a successful product or a widely used innovative product, you need to take risks and be willing to fail and to have a long-term vision. And many times those can be diametrically opposed to the short-term desires of the crypto ecosystem. So it's definitely a challenge to be a builder and an entrepreneur in the traditional high-tech space, and then it's like on crack to try and do it on crypto.
I can't even imagine what you guys go through. That's hard. Along those lines, what would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice. That's a great question. I mean, it really comes in different scopes. Probably that, and again, I forget who quoted it. I didn't hear it from the original quoter, but that delivery is more important than perfection. That you need to just keep making progress, and iterative progress is more important than trying to get everything right. Every token launch is going to be messy. Every product release is going to, have things that you hate about it. And you just have to kind of be able to pick up the pieces and work within the world of chaos to be able to just constantly improve and create value.
Yeah, absolutely. What is one thing that you hope people take away from this conversation?
There's a lot of opportunity within Rujira to do new things and to do things that nobody else has done, to really try and fix challenges that have plagued the ecosystem, whether it was wallets, chain maximalism, token economics, alignment of multiple dApps. We probably won't get everything right out of the gate, but there's a huge opportunity here to do new innovative things. And that's what has brought everybody to the table. And the level of talent that's come to the table around Rujira is just in a different league of other groups that I've worked on together. I mean, I remember there were so many talented people around Terra. I guess that's it, is I feel like with Rujira, we have an opportunity to kind of build Terra 2.0. There was a Terra 2.0, but I mean, to continue the vision and the opportunity there.
Mhm. Yeah, this is the feeling that I've been having. And especially when we were speaking before, we were saying the importance of having everything under a unique brand, the same branding, and no one is competing against each other. And they're all working together. And it is exciting. It does feel like a Terra 2.0. I can feel the energy.
Yeah. And, it's obviously, it's a different market now than it was, circa 2020, when Mirror launched and then when Anchor launched. It's a very different vision. I think we the risks associated with UST were underappreciated, and there was so much good in the ecosystem that that was lost when UST collapsed. And so I think that if we can capture 1/10 of the community fever, and we can build like 30% of the apps and quality of apps, then I think it will be a top DeFi ecosystem that will just naturally attract the most talented builders in the space.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that the two teams, Levana and Rujira, who kind of have been through the trenches together, have come together with 4chain to help make that happen. It feels very synergistic.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think that the communities behind each of the projects, are well-seasoned, highly sophisticated communities that will also be the cornerstone of an ecosystem that really can take root and grow quickly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing with me today and being so open. For people that want to follow you or learn more about Levana and Rujira Perps, where should we link them?
So we'll link you to, so I'm Madcap's Laugh on Twitter. I don't tweet so much, just, occasionally. It's hard to do everything. Levana is Levana_protocol. And, RUJI Perps doesn't have an independent, we decided to just go with one handle for everything. It'll be easiest just if you link to the RUJI network Twitter handle, which is repurposed from the Jira handle.
Okay. This reminds me, your pinned tweet on your personal profile, I think, is so funny. Would you?
It's totally real. So it is. So it's. I'm going through a box. We were like, it was like moving winter clothes into the summer, and like we've got like a storage, and then there's like these random other boxes which has like all kinds of stuff, and we were going to give away a bunch of baby clothes because my daughter's like 16 now and she doesn't wear baby clothes, and she's a big crypto native. She has like, she's got a bunch of NFTs, and she knows how to she has her seed wallet backed up on a metal plate, and she's like, it's amazing to see crypto, people raise. She was actually, her birthday, her name in English is Goldie, which is funny. It's Zahava in Hebrew. And she was born, January 3rd, 2009, a few hours after the Genesis block of Bitcoin. So her and Bitcoin share the same birthday. And so I'm going through these boxes, and we're like separating out some of her baby stuff. And I find a list of like 20 some words, and it has the date, like, 2010 or 2011 on it. And I'm like, because whatever, I mean, we all have like, whatever, it's a sad story, but I own some Bitcoin, back in the day that is no longer with us. And so I like look at it and I'm like, holy,
and it's a handwritten list.
Yeah.
Clarify. Yeah.
And so I see this list of like seed words, and I start to read it, and I'm like sweating and my heart is pounding. And my wife looks over at me and she grabs it and she goes, "Those are your daughter's first words. It's not Bitcoin." And I'm like, like I just thought we were just like bazillionaires, but no, we are not. Yep. But we're all billionaires because we have three lovely kids and, and a great house and wonderful pets.
Yeah, things to be truly grateful for. That reminds me, you told me one other story about your son being an excellent trader.
My son is, his mentality. So he's an entrepreneur. He's bought his own Bitcoin, like playing violin at the marketplace. Getting like just getting coins and then asking me to trade it for Bitcoin for him. He has a wallet on his phone, tracks his portfolio. He's 12 years old now, but he's been doing it since, I don't know, he was like 9. I think I set him up with a wallet when he was like 8. And so he's like kind of learned more about it, and he watches YouTube shorts, and so like stuff comes up there. And so he comes to me, this must have been, I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago, so he was probably like 10 or 11, and he's like, Dad, I had an idea. You know how Bitcoin always goes up and down in price? Well, if you sold it when it went up, and then when it came back down, you bought it again, and you just kept doing that, you would just get more and more Bitcoin. And I was like, that's brilliant, son. Like, how did you think of that? Who told you that? And he's like, I don't know. I was just thinking about it. Like, do people do that? Is that like a thing? And I was like, yes, that's a thing. And, he asked if he could try it. I was like, no, he cannot try it. Oh, this is also another great quote that I learned from my father, which was that one of the worst things that can happen to you, and I think this is how I got hooked on crypto, is to win a horse race at a young age, because you'll always be chasing that high. And so that first 2000, that like run from like Bitcoin at $900 to $19,000 over the course of it couldn't have been more than a year, was so intoxicating that like I feel like a lot of us are still around just kind of like trying to chase that high.
I completely understand. I had some early wins too, and you're just trying to catch that feeling. I get that. Any last advice that you would give to new people coming into the space?
Yeah, just risk management is important. Size up. What I like about leverage trading is that you can kind of like trade big numbers without allocating big capital. You can put down, $10 and go 50x long or short. And if you're right, it's meaningful. And if you're wrong, so you got liquidated, you might have set it, hopefully you set a stop loss. So you lost, $6. Now, obviously you can add zeros to that based on your, financial situation, but, always practice risk management, not your keys, not your coins. If you ever find yourself typing a seed phrase, you're about to be hacked. Seed phrases never get typed anywhere. And, and even better is like multi-sig, where you don't even have to deal with seed phrases. I think that's the future of the market, so that we can get normies and, recognize that money isn't going to make you happy, but also poverty isn't going to make you happy either. So, it's good to aspire for wealth, but just don't lose yourself in the journey.
Yes, absolutely. I remember reading a study that if you make over, I think it's 80,000 a year, I think it depends where you live, that's the cutoff where money doesn't make you happier anymore because your basic needs are met.
Yeah. And don't get into fights with your significant other about crypto. And also don't talk about your unrealized gains, because that's very painful, and never, don't go buying a car because you just got a bunch of unrealized gains. It's like, you got to ring the cash register before before it becomes real.
That's so true. And this is a big issue. And it's hard when you see people posting online, I just made however many thousands of X's. But this is the real world, and you do have family and wife. And how do you talk about these things? So I think it's important to talk about that.
Yeah. So thanks so much for the interview. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully there was something educational out there. Come follow Rujira. Come play with RUJI Perps. If you want to try it out today, come check out Levana, Levana protocol. Trade.levana.finance is the website. And, always happy to hop on a call with anybody or answer any questions, and make sure you're having fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing about Levana and Rujira. Very, very exciting. And we will definitely be following it along the way.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Thank you. See you next time on Cexless Podcast.